Have you always been an ultra runner like this?
No, dude. So I like just got into running in the past few years. So quick backstory. I was a elite athlete, 8-time All-American, Division I athlete, 30 plus Colorado State records for swimming, 16 national titles. I was really great for endurance in swimming events, and I broke my back in a surfing accident in my early 20s. And that took me from like this elite endurance guy to like functionally disabled, and I couldn't move. And
Jeez.
fitness, there was nothing. There was no running, there was no lifting, there was nothing going on in my life for almost 10 years. And once I learned what needed to get done to like move and feel better, I started working with runners, and I was so tired of getting other people across the finish line and like rehabbing these broken runners who have this love for this thing and now can't do it because their body's like failing them, and showing them the things that they need to do without being a runner, just understanding just basic human movement. And I'm seeing these people get on these podiums and run these marathons and ultra marathons, and I'm sitting over here knowing what I know, no longer having back pain, and it's like why am I not doing that too?
Mm.
So then I started, and it was a rough start. Dude, the last time I had ran before I was 32 years old was for like the 6th grade mile test in PE. That was it. That was it. I never loved running. I was never good at land sports. I was a swimmer. So this is like brand new territory for me. I'm still like 3 years into the sport, making all the mistakes a rookie would make, and loving it as I go along my way.
I love that.
Yeah.
But do you remember what your mile time was back in 6th grade?
I all I remember was just desperately clutching that fourth popsicle stick, right? Because every time you do a lap, you get a popsicle stick to show that you did all
Okay.
that you did all the laps. I don't even think it was timed back then, or if it was, I don't even think it was below 10 minutes. I struggled on land. And that goes back into why probably rehab was so hard for me, because I was never a strong guy. I was really good in low weight bearing environments like the pool, but you put me in a weight room and I never had strength. I never had power. Me like resisting gravity's force, that was not my strong suit. And I didn't move well outside of the water, but you remove gravity and I could kind of move a little bit better.
Mm.
So, you know, most people adapt, their body adapts so critically to the sports that we do as kids. And I was a swimmer, so I never really experienced load and impact forces. My bones weren't strong, soft tissue structures weren't strong. Most of my time was just spent in a zero weight bearing environment like the pool.
Yeah.
So going from that to being broken, and then literally starting at square one with what is strength, what is movement, and how do you get better at being a higher quality human being on land. That was what my rehab journey started off as. So this stuff's all new.
Dude, I love that. Have you dealt with a lot of injuries in the last 3 years because of that, not being used to that impact?
I've dealt with a lot of discomfort, but never injuries. And this is where the world that I teach people. So by the time I started running at 32, I had about 10 to 12 years of like biomechanics and rehab and joint motion and the right muscles doing the right work. So like a lot of motor control training. I had no strength and no endurance. So, on most of my runs, they were way harder than I could do. So I noticed like a lot of inflammation, a lot of aches and pains, but never any injuries that sidelined me, like knock on wood. And I think it is a testament to the work that I now teach people. It just made it more capable to go do the hard things. And one of the biggest approaches that I have is, everybody's always trying to put work and push their body and push their body. That was my relationship too with sports. When I finally, when I broke my back, you can't push something like that. In fact, it takes the exact opposite. You have to learn how to relax. You've got to learn how to unwind and downregulate the nervous system. And that was my wheelhouse for the longest time. So when I would go push myself on a run, and when I say push myself, I mean like a half a mile starting or a mile starting, I knew the mechanisms for how to let the body rest and recover. My recovery game was on point. My active game was zero. And I think that's why I was able to actually get through it without running through most of the normal injuries that a lot of runners are running into.
Yeah. How old were you when you first started swimming?
Probably 8, 7 or 8 years old.
Were you
So
naturally pretty good at it?
yeah, I mean, it was like the first meet I broke a pool record. It
Oh,
was just,
dang.
I tried all the sports. I tried baseball. I tried basketball. My coach was my uncle for my basketball team. And I remember him coming over for a family dinner and just suggesting I try something different because I was playing basketball with him for 2 years and didn't make one basket. And anytime anybody threw me the ball, I would just giggle because I got nervous. I was not great at sports. But I tried to join the local swim team and set a record on my first meet, like without even knowing what I was doing. I was just good at it. And I loved being in the water. And so it was just, energy just flowed in that direction because it was the easiest damn thing to me. And soon after you know it, I mean, by the time I was like 9 or 10 years old, I was doing 11 practices a week, 2-a-days. And it was my life until I was about 18, 19.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
you said, what were the records you broke in, was that high school and college?
Oh yeah, it was. So most of them were state records, relay events, pool records, meet records, you name it. And some of them still stand to this day, which, I'm 35 now. So this is 20 plus years ago. And these
Dang.
records are still standing. And our knowledge of sports and how to train kids is getting better. So I was good for a really short amount of time, man. I was like the king of the pool. It felt really good. And this is what laid the center stage for me thinking I really had a chance, man. I wanted to go to the 2008 Olympics and represent our country for swimming. And I had this dream of just, I think like everybody does in sports, how do you get to the top of it? And to have all of these big ambitions and then like literally in a single wave, just everything was just wrecked and destroyed. So yeah, swimming was my sport.
Dang. How old were you when you broke your back?
It was the early 20s. So like right when I just turned 20.
Jeez. So
Yeah.
was that maybe like junior year of college?
Yeah. So I did freshman year at UW, swam for University of Wyoming, and Division I athletics that's a different beast.
Yeah.
And you can't miss. I mean, it's tough, man. Even if you're on a partial scholarship of them paying for your books, like they own you. And Division I athletics, it took this like love of a sport that I had, and I think we worked it out to the amount of hours that I'm putting into the sport and the scholarship that I got. I think I was earning like 35 cents an hour as a collegiate athlete.
Oh my
Because you
gosh.
can't work, you can't hold down meaningful
Right.
jobs. And after my first year of UW, I just got so burned out and I decided to go lighten this up a little bit. Moved out to California, swam for Ventura Community College, which was one of the best community college programs in the country for swimming. And that's when I kind of wanted to find a different sport, something to just fall in love with again, and started surfing. I was a hell of a better surfer or a swimmer than I was a surfer. And, I was strong enough to paddle out to those waves, but man, I sucked at surfing. I could get out past the waves, but I didn't really know what to do once I caught a
Yeah.
wave. And so that's what led to my demise.
Dang. Surfing is so hard.
There's so much that you have to do and manage.
Yeah.
Just the getting out there, man,
I
is the
know.
hard part. So
Getting out there and then the skill of like reading the waves and understanding when to get on a wave and like, and so that's half the battle. Then once you're on the wave, how do you ride the wave? It's like,
Yeah.
there's so much to it.
yeah,
Dang. How long were you actually able to surf for before your injury?
had like a couple months.
That's
I mean,
it?
it wasn't
Oh, man.
long, and I remember it was we had a huge swell come to Southern California, and I remember looking at these waves on the beach, and like the good surfers were like, I'm not going out in that. And so naturally my ego is like, we're going out in that. I was one of the only guys foolish enough to go paddle out into this. And, my downfall was I was a strong enough swimmer to get out there, but I was not a strong enough surfer to actually manage the power of the ocean that day. And literally the first wave, first set, it just spit me up and threw me on my back, and my lower back hit a rock. And I knew it in the moment that happened that I was not going to come above the surface of the water the same. I mean, I remember like trying to look down, and this was when I was like in the water still, under the water. I remember looking down at my left leg because I thought I got ripped off. Like I just didn't feel it. I felt my right leg kicking to the surface, but my left leg was just numb.
Oh,
So it
jeez.
was just an immediate like shock of, oh, we did something.
Yeah. And it was, what's like the technical term for that injury? Just, I mean, it's a broken back, obviously.
Yeah, so the technicalities were I had a T12 fracture, so right in that junction, right at the top of the lumbar spine in the mid back. I fractured that vertebrae. Due to the force and the trauma of the impact, I had multiple herniations. The nerve damage was so severe that my spine buckled and curved, shifted 21 degrees to the left.
Jeez.
So, and I've got some X-rays on my social account showing it. My spine just looks twisted and mangled from that. I mean, you can almost see like where the rock hit my back, and it just shifted in a spasm.
Gosh.
And it stayed there for years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was basically a decade before you got back into like being active, and did you do much like after you got healed back up before you started running?
Yeah.
Or was that kind of a decade of just not doing a whole lot, or what did that look like?
Yeah, it was, I think from that point, my story is probably like a lot of people's, which is like when you're in pain, you go see the experts, the PTs, chiros, doctors. Man, I tried so many things. My hand was in, oh, I got to do Pilates. No, it's yoga. No, it's PT. No, I got to just go to the gym and do some like group fitness classes, or no, I'm going to find health and fitness on a spin bike first. I was so random and disorganized because I was desperate. I tried everything I could think of to get out of pain and just feel better. And not only did my body feel this way, but like my roots and origins are like endurance athletes. Those endorphins and that like capacity to work your body, I didn't have that. So I was on the hunt for that in whatever way, shape I could. I even found those like little arm wheelie things at the gym where you're just sitting down doing like arm circles, thinking this was my new sport. Like this is what I can now get into because I don't really have a lot of back movement. And so, I tried a lot, and a lot of it led nowhere. A lot of it led to just more pain. And it took a really long time to understand that I was bringing dysfunction into everything. So when I would go ride a spin bike, I was bringing all of this movement impairment and muscular dysfunction onto that bike. And when you strengthen the body, I was strengthening those problems. So I was in this really nasty, vicious cycle for 10 years. The stronger I'd get, the worse I felt. The less I did, the worse mentally I felt. And I was just, it felt like a kite in a hurricane, just caught between these two massive forces. And I couldn't win either way. And that's what ultimately led me to what I now teach, which is like gentle movement, like simple ways to start moving the body again. And it started out without weights. It started out on my floor. How do my feet work? How can I get those joints to move and work better together? And then my knees and my hips. And I just kind of took it one body part at a time, just being grateful that I could do any motion in any joint. Once things started to move and feel better and my body became more capable again, that's when I started to entertain, let me go back to the gym. And every time I did, I kept getting injured. And it was so frustrating. I was a personal trainer. I was a corrective exercise specialist. Man, I had the academic education, and I couldn't like outthink this problem. Anything I did was just managing more pain and more symptoms. And it took an entirely different approach to therapy that really revolutionized how I approached movement and the problem.